not gonna hit you. Look at me! They're not gonna hit you. You stay down, you stay low, you stay quiet. Okay. Go!
Hey, I'm Derek.
And I'm Noah, and you're listening to A Bite Of,
where we take our current favorite pop culture obsession and enjoy it one nibble at a time.
Ooh, 4th episode. Derek's back.
I'm back.
So Brad from Couples Counseling. Wait, Couples Books, Comic Book Couples Counseling.
There you go. Come on.
He filled in for Derek last week when he
Yes.
sadly could not be here. Unfortunately missing that episode.
That episode.
I'm sure we're going to hear your thoughts in just a second.
Yes.
Before we get into everything, if you've been following us on social media, on our personal one, on the podcast one, you know that our lovely pseudo, pretty much the mascot of A Bite Of, Lola, the one that had recently just lost her eye in September, is in the hospital for critical care. She's been in there since Saturday. I don't know what day it is. And so we started a GoFundMe because if you have pets, you kind of know how expensive that gets. They don't know what's wrong with her. So this is us just saying you can find her story there if you want to share her story, if you want to donate. It's going to be down in the show description, the notes, or you can go to her social media and you'll find it there.
Yeah.
We don't really want to talk too much about it because we're here to talk about this episode and we don't want to cry.
I'm already there, so.
So
Yikes.
if you want to find her story there, you can go and check that out there. So that is out of the way, and now we're going to talk about more fun things.
Yes.
Right?
Do. Hopefully. Well, no, but yes. I'm such a mess. Oh my gosh.
So on with the show. Also follow us on social media. I'm not going to say all the stuff because
You've heard that hundreds of times.
Yeah, you got the point. So speaking of episode 3, Derek would like to share his thoughts. Just briefly, he'll share his thoughts because he deserves it.
Yes. And so this is a different look back at The Last of Us episode 3, long time. So as we mentioned, I was not here. And I want to say thank you to Noah and Brad from Comic Book. Why is that so hard to say?
I told you.
Comic Book Couples Counseling, who did such a fantastic job talking about all the facets of last week's episode. So I was traveling for work and decided to watch this episode in the lobby of my hotel because I had a good amount of time between checking out from the hotel and going to the airport. This is definitely a poor decision because I was trying my hardest to not just be bawling in the middle of the lobby when people were eating like their hamburgers around me.
You called me and said, I finished watching it. I was like, aren't you in the lobby waiting? He said, yes. I said, bad choice.
I was literally like watching people get hamburgers and soft pretzels, and I was just like crying. It was a mess. But, I think the thing is that this episode meant a lot to me, and I think it meant a lot to many others. So there's something to be said about Bill locking himself away in a home with his guards up. Yes, literally it makes sense because he's a survivalist and the world is ending, but metaphorically it means something as well. In my own coming out and acceptance of my sexuality, there was a point in time where it felt like it would be easier to be closeted and single forever. The world was too scary for many reasons, and what better way to protect myself than to lock myself away and hide from the world that can possibly hurt you. So part of the beauty of Bill's story is Frank, who acts as a key of sorts. Frank represents hope, love, and a chance to be free of the chains Bill placed on himself for so long. When you're young and queer, it can often feel like you are all alone and that you will never meet someone. Then, if you're lucky, as you age, you realize you're not alone. The fact that this happened for Bill during an apocalypse, well, that's the 1 in a million shot we all wait and hope for. Take this story out of the Last of Us universe, and it is still a beautiful story, one of acceptance, one of letting someone in, most importantly, one of love. The performances by Murray Bartlett and Nick Offerman were authentic. Their scruffy chests felt real because men have chest hair.
Woof.
They so easily portrayed the theme of the episode that what really matters in the world, even if it is ending, is love. So I want to say this episode was beautiful for many reasons, but I think we should all go find a strawberry patch and giggle with the ones that we love and try not to roll around with them if you can help it. Other points of interest, though?
One, that was beautiful. And you had so much time to process this, and I'm a little jealous.
I actually was like, I wish I had written this when I was first experiencing it, but it probably just would have been like tears on my keyboard.
Why?
But that is really what that episode meant to me. It's such a metaphor for what it means to be closeted and how easy it can be to not want to face the things out in the world because it's scary. It's scary. And so Bill and Frank, I mean, I even love that we see them having their first intimate experience together. And then the next scene jumps forward like 4 years and they're fighting. And it's real.
Yeah.
Right? It's real. They're fighting about, painting, like mowing the lawn and painting the boutique or whatever, and having friends over, which can happen sometimes. But it felt so real. And I just think that the story was beautiful. I know that you and Brad talked a little bit about the death at the end of it and what that meant. But it felt poetic to me in the moment.
Hey, that's the word I used.
Well, that's why we're together. And I just thought it was such, I don't know. And the thing is that I feel like any queer person that I follow online, every once in a while, even this week, like they'll be writing like, people told me to watch The Last of Us. I watched it and now I can't stop crying.
Right.
So I think it just hits that inner feeling for so many of us so well.
Yeah, there's not too many times we get, I mean, there's more times now, I will say. But 10 years ago, we didn't get good stories like this.
No, not at all.
And my biggest takeaway from it, aside from all the beautiful things that you just said, was some people, may have been upset that they did die. And they were the queer people in there. But one, this show, this property has much more queer representation coming, trust me. But they also did it on their own terms, which I thought was very, very important. And I loved that they expanded this because I'm telling you, the amount of time we got with Bill, we did not get Frank. We got Frank already dead in the game. We got nothing. So this was just such a beautiful, this made me more excited for the show because I don't know what's going to happen. And I love it.
Right. And they took this in such a beautiful direction that was very unexpected.
Yeah.
And that was awesome.
Well, now you know Derek's thoughts on it.
Yes.
He cried and he loved it.
Also, the other points of interest. Ellie stabs an infected.
Yeah.
Showers for everyone. And the government is awful. And then Joel and Ellie take the truck and go.
Yeah. Sweet.
Oh, also one other little detail. Sorry.
That's why I didn't talk.
One other little detail. So, we learned the story of what the government does to people, how they would just round them up and then end up killing them. And, we see the blanket of the baby. And of course, the blanket had rainbows on it.
Yeah.
LGBT rep.
Yeah.
They said, guess what? It's going to be a gay story.
Yeah.
This baby's blanket is gay.
I mean, sorry about it. The story is very gay. So
gay.
Yay. All right. Spoiler warning for... Well, you just heard the stuff about the third one, but spoiler warning for the fourth episode of The Last of Us. And I promise you, I will not spoil ahead in the game. I'll try my hardest.
All right. So let us officially take a bite of The Last of Us episode 4. Please hold to my hand.
Okay.
That it doesn't sound grammatically correct.
No.
And so when you go on HBO Max, that's the title. IMDb, that's the title, but other articles are taking the 2 out and just calling it "Please hold my hand."
Oh, like a normal sentence.
Yes, but I don't know. I'm so confused.
I don't know who to trust in this world anymore. If you know what that means, if it's maybe a song lyric or something, please comment below and tell us.
Yeah, I was wondering, was that the song that they were listening to in the truck?
I don't know. Don't ask me. I don't know. Willie Harrison, I don't know, is the good guy's name.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I don't know.
Episode title away from our minds because I feel like we could just talk about that. This was the shortest episode so far. Only about 45 minutes. 45 minutes. I think it was short, sweet. great character development. It pushed our characters further. We needed this midway through the season because especially last episode, they were hardly in it. So they needed to do some footwork to get them to develop as a duo.
Totally. You know, it's interesting that this was the shortest one when this one felt to me like the most sort of apocalyptic one since the first episode. You know, driving through desolate lands and then coming across a group of, you know, untrustworthy people. Like that feels like your territory that you see in these types of this type of media. So it's interesting that it was the shortest one when it almost feels like they could have done the most with it.
I think we need shots like this. We need this laying the groundwork, kind of building the setting, showing more scenes of this type of thing to remind us of what they lost and the state of the world currently. But it's great. I mean, it's so eerie and fascinating to watch. You know, we got the scene in the third one very briefly with the plane that crashed and stuff was growing over it. And it obviously was left there for about 20 years. But seeing highways and very usually busy areas like truck stops and everything just being desolate and everything just left where it was it really brings home that feeling of the universe that they're trying to make. I feel like we do get that in a lot of the media, but I liked the way it looked in this one. I don't know. I felt that like it did actually look aged. You know, a lot of stuff just feels charred.
Sure.
In some of this media, this one really felt like there was moss on it.
Yes, that was one of the things I was thinking about. And I love that there are people out there who know exactly what to do to make something look perfectly aged. Right. How to paint it, what textures to put on it, what type of foliage and growth to put on it. It's such, I mean, there are such amazing creative people out there, but it immerses you in the world. Yeah. You know, and it must be fun for the actors as well to be like, I'm here now. Yeah.
We get the great road trip, short-lived, but road trip with Bill's car in this episode. And it was a lot of fun. I liked the contrast between how Ellie deals with uncomfortability and how Joel does. Joel continues to say that she's just cargo, even though we know that he doesn't fully think that. He likes her.
He's warming up to her.
As we know from the cracking up at her pun jokes at the end. We know that he likes her. But I like that she likes that he does that because she eggs him on. She kind of pushes him a little bit. We have the scene in the car with the porn magazine, Bill's, I'm assuming, because it's his truck.
It's so, like, if you think about it, though, it's so sad. Like, he's a grown man, and he had to hide his, like, one porno magazine in the back of the passenger side seat.
2003, man.
Oh.
2003.
Our but sweet Bill.
It was directly pulled from the game. That exact conversation, everything that happened, literally happened in the game. So it's so fun to see them recreate these scenes that really stick with gamers from this, and then everybody else gets to experience it. But it doesn't feel shoehorned, it doesn't feel forced. So if you didn't play the game, that's just what happened. But people that did play the game were like, this is the scene, this is the thing,
a little Easter egg for you that's in there. And you know, I feel like they really I like the idea of them being on this road trip together. Right. It has the map reading. It has the sort of are we there yet feeling. It has the awkward conversations. It's
the music choices.
You know, finding a cassette and popping it in. You know, it's as these two characters, you know, we know that they're going to come together and grow to really appreciate each other. But it's fun to see them be forced into this situation where they have to almost tolerate each other. Right. But yet it's not really tolerating because they really already do feel for each other.
Yeah. The moment where he pulls off on the side of the road I believe it's after the gas station or the truck stop. Yeah. And he sees that she's tired and he's like, okay, we're going to stop for the night. It's like, those are the little things in him that is still the dad, that's still the protector. Yes. And it's so subtle, but it's so cool that they added those small little elements to it, because he just said your cargo. He just said Tess was family, your cargo. But we know that's not true. And he's just saying that. It's almost as if, I want to use this as an example because I feel like they did it on purpose. they showed Bill and Frank's story. It's almost as if Joel would have accepted love and something like that, that's what Joel could have had. We get introduced to this new character in this one, Kathleen. I feel like it's the inverse of Bill, where she does not, and she just fully goes into being good at being violent, but just cutting off everything. And I feel like we're getting these two inverses of kind of Joel, or these figures where they could lead, where their life could lead. Choices are important.
Choices are important. And for each of those characters, it's about survival.
Yeah.
And what they are willing to do and who they're willing to either bring in or push out in order to survive. And I think for all of them as well, there is the idea of family and love, right? So we know Joel's story, we just learned Bill's. And now with Kathleen, I mean, an interesting thing about Kathleen is that we're sort of thrown into her story,
right?
Not knowing all of the pieces, but she mentions her brother.
Yeah.
And we know that something happened to her brother because of someone else. So again, even though there's the apocalypse, right? There's this greater idea of the apocalypse here. With these characters that we're meeting, it's about these very sacred relationships of family and how they react to those losses that they have.
Yeah, the choices you make with those losses, or what comes your way and how you deal with those. That's the important, I think, factor to think about with Last of Us. And that's almost what sets it apart. I don't want to say above, because I don't want to shit on other things, but I think it does set it apart in a way, because it really focuses on particular types of relationships and not just a bunch of stuff.
Right. And just speaking of stuff in another sense, I mean, that's the point. All the stuff is gone.
Oh, I thought you were going to like bring it to something else.
No. All the stuff in the world is gone. The cars are done, except for one or two. Everything is gone. So all that really is left are people.
Boo.
I mean, sure. People
we see how they are.
People ruin everything, but yet people, the only thing that they have to care for are other people.
Yeah.
Speaking of people caring for other people, we do see, like you said, Joel opening up.
Yeah.
And I loved this first instance of, him explaining to Ellie. She's like, are there going to be infected here? He's like, no, we're too far out. She's like, then why do you need your gun? He's like, people.
Right.
And
so he's more scared of people than he is of infected. I mean, clickers and bloaters aside.
Right.
But he is way more scared of them.
Absolutely. And I mean,
because he was one of them.
I was just going to say that. As we learn later on, he has firsthand experience in being the person who is willing to do anything to survive.
Right.
So he knows that truth from all angles. And so when she finally says to him before she falls asleep, are people really going to come? He knows that she's scared, and that's why he stays up all night to protect her.
Yeah, he's the protector. That's what he is. That's his purpose.
Yes.
It's Bill's purpose,
Bill said, yes.
But it's now his purpose. He cannot fail this time, because I don't think he can lose anybody else.
No.
The camping scenes were a lot of fun. I liked the scene with Ellie. It was pretty much in the beginning where she finally has the gun. She finally got the gun that she's been pining over, wanting, begging Joel to have. He said, no, which I think we all can mostly agree. Like, I don't think, like, Ellie, you've been pretty good with the knife. Like, don't go headfirst into violence. Let's work our way up to that. But it's scary. It's scary seeing her go this path, almost. Go this path that Joel's going. Not saying it was a bad path, because he's alive and he seems mostly fine, except for a bunch of losses and dealing with them. I don't know. But one of the things that Brad and I had talked about in the last episode was the idea of kids being born in post-apocalyptic settings. And what does that do to somebody? And we can see Ellie mirroring Joel. Mirroring Joel quite a bit. And I don't know if that's because forced proximity or they just are the same person.
Maybe it's both. And maybe there's also something to be said of I think with Ellie, there is this deeper instinct within her, right? We saw that in the last episode when she was almost like playing with that infected for a little bit. But there's also the idea of, oh, shit. The world is really scary.
Right.
And I need to be able to protect myself.
Like, this is normal now. Like, I don't know how it was prior to this. Like, why can I not protect myself like everybody else is doing?
Everybody else. Like if I'm in this person's home who I've never met before, and their basement literally has walls of guns, that's telling me something. That's telling me that there's something to be afraid of, and I need to protect myself from it. And now through this episode, she's learning that, oh wait, it's not just the infected, it's humans too.
Yeah, that leads us to the big action set piece, or the bulk of the episode. They get to Kansas City. In the game, they go to Pittsburgh. I like the difference. I don't think it ultimately matters. I think just the setting.
Bring it to the Midwest.
Yeah, the setting just looks a little different. But when they get to Kansas City, we see that it's completely blocked off, probably for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
Not too sure what Fedger might have blocked off, what the settlement might have blocked off.
It was Sarah Lee, the decadent cake people. The truck was the Sarah Lee truck.
Was it really?
Yes.
Oh, I didn't even notice. I was like, when you said the name, I was like, the bread?
Yeah, exactly.
The little girl did
Your
that?
lunch bread.
Did that. But we could see in these scenes on how Joel is noticing that this isn't okay. And he makes a choice.
Whoops.
He could have went around. He could have just breathed, wait a second, could have went around, but he decides to go through. And as we see, that's probably not the best choice, but choices matter in the story. Somebody comes out, posing as hurt. He knows what's up. Tires pop. They're stuck inside of a convenience store.
Before the tires pop, I think they threw a friggin' air conditioner on his windshield.
Some type of heavy thing.
Holy smokes.
It was so cool. The way they shoot this episode, or action sequences in this in general, are so cool because it goes from like handheld shaky camera to close-ups. It's just cool. It's just really immersive. It's a really neat way to show this, because they could have showed the outside view of that person throwing it on there, but seeing it from the inside and smacking the window is much more effective.
It feels more visceral. It feels like you're feeling it. Ugh, you're blinded just as they are.
Just as confused as Ellie.
Yeah.
Yeah. But this scene we get inside this convenience store is so unsettling and so terrifying. So Joel tells Ellie to hide. She hides. Joel gets attacked by a younger guy. He's not looking good. He's probably going to die. Ellie decides to protect him. Shoots the guy. This is her first really big act of violence. Not saying stabbing somebody in the leg is not a big act of violence, but shooting a gun, steps above, especially a 14-year-old girl. And the way, no music, hearing this guy beg, turning him into a person now instead of a villain or somebody that was just attacking Joel. Oh, that was perfect storytelling, but unsettling storytelling.
I have to admit, that is one of my least favorite things. That's why I'm not a fan of like slasher horror movies. I don't like the person pleading for their life. It makes me feel uncomfortable. And look, this actor was really great.
Yeah. Really good at pleading for your life and begging your case.
And I mean, there's that very real thing of get my mom, my mom, even when you're a grown adult, just get my mom.
Right.
And so that rings so true to what has happened in the real world. And so the scene was very unsettling. And we're watching Ellie experience this and she being the cause of that pain and that fear. But did she have a choice?
No, I don't think she did, which is unfortunate. And I think that the juxtaposition between making choices and not having choices is so clear in this, but it's also usually when you don't have a choice in this story so far, the outcome tends to not be good. And that sucks. If you watch the look inside the episode, Craig Mazin, the creator of the show, along with Neil Druckmann, he described the scene, and I'm just going to say what he said because I didn't notice it, but I noticed it because he said it. And he said, Joel had a chance to comfort Ellie in that scene, and he didn't. She goes back into the other room, wipes off her tears as if nothing happened. Harrowing. That's not, it's so interesting to see the development of these characters But then we get scenes where she's still telling puns. So it's just like how they're both coping with things and not coping with things. It's almost like they're not, but are together.
Well, there's something to be said about physical touch. And I think that you can talk to someone, but then there's always that moment, if there is something serious, going, can I give you a hug?
Right.
Like, I mean, to be completely honest, it literally happened to me today. I was standing in the parking lot at work and I was talking to Darla, who is my friend and colleague. We were talking about Lola and I started crying. And Darla and I have worked together for 8 years, but she said, can I give you a hug?
Right.
And because there's something about physical touch. So that's very real in that moment. They're not there yet.
No. And some people just aren't that way.
Yeah.
And it might just be by chance that both of them aren't that way, but also want it.
Of course. You want to be comforted, but like it's not them.
Yeah.
But I do think that we see him do something, while it's not a hug or comfort, he teaches her how to hold a gun.
Yeah, they send Kathleen, this amazing character.
Played by the one and only Melanie Lynskey.
Amazing actor.
So good.
I say amazing character because I love a very complicated villain.
This is Noah's fave.
I mean, why do you think I love this property so much? Like,
it's his bread and butter. He love it.
But so after the people that had died get brought to her, she believes that Henry, who we see at the end of this episode, right. Henry and Sam, they're brothers, is the reason for them dying. That they might have radioed somebody to come help them and then they killed them. She blames Henry. Only thing we know, the connection between Kathleen and Henry and Sam, is that she blames Henry for her brother's death. And that's why she was interrogating the doctor in that shipping container.
Yeah. Tiny home.
And she's trying to figure out where Henry is. So, misunderstanding, one, because it wasn't Henry, unfortunately, for everybody involved. And so she sends the entire force out to look for them, which, can I tell you, sounds like my worst nightmare. Because you know what? Give me monsters. I don't want people. Because people can see you from a mile away.
Oh, yeah. And they got battering rams and stuff? Yeah. No. They have my makeshift door.
They have snowplows with run on the front of it. No, thank you.
Run, Rudolph.
No.
So I find it, I'm like, wow. So she is willing to use all of her resources on this one person and his little brother. That's how obsessed with Henry and Sam she is.
Yeah. I mean, again, it's about those relationships and the choices you make because of them. I think until we know a little more of what happened, like why is she so obsessed with it? But all we know is that they ratted him out or Henry ratted her brother out to Fedra and got him killed. But why? That's the like little bit more that I need to know. I feel like this is a bigger episode, but they cut it into 2 parts. Like it just didn't feel finished almost.
Right. And that's why it almost feels like they could have gone there.
Right.
Right. I will say I have never been so scared of someone named Kathleen before. Personally.
I was taking a sip.
She said, Kathleen. And that little like voice that she has.
That's what makes, and I don't know if she's going to get like typecast almost because of this. Because in Yellow Jackets. That's who she is. The little bit that we have seen from Yellow Jackets, she is this, I don't know the proper phrasing to use. I'm just going to say it. Like the every woman that is terrifying. Yeah. That is just so acceptant of violence, but then can flip on a switch. It's terrifying.
Terrifying. You know, I actually fell in love with her in a lighter role.
Oh.
She played one of the stepsisters in Drew Barrymore's Ever After, which was a Cinderella retelling.
I've seen it. I couldn't tell you if I remember her.
She is so adorable in it. She's like the stepsister that doesn't want to be mean, but her mom forces her to be mean. So that's how I've always like loved and cherished her.
She grew up into these roles.
Apparently so. And I love that the gays live for her.
Oh, yeah.
It's one of my favorite things.
Obviously.
Obvi. Hello.
Obviously we do. So this group of people I find really interesting. And I wanted to assume that they were called the Hunters. In the game, there's these groups of people, especially in cities, they're called the Hunters.
Mm-hmm.
And they call people that come into their territory tourists.
Ooh.
They don't like anybody in their territory. They'll do exactly what they did to Joel and Ellie. Just kill them, take them, whatever. So that's who I thought it was. Just like they said in the look into the episode, they're faceless. In the game, they were faceless. There's no really leader. They're just people inside cities that you have to take out in the game to get to your objective.
They're NPCs.
Right. And so the cool thing they did with the show is they gave it a face. And particularly one in Kathleen and another one in Perry, her right-hand soldier guy, who is also the voice of Tommy in the game. Bring back those actors.
Yes.
I love it.
In the family.
I love that. I love that they're doing that. And it's just cool to see them still be in that world and have a role, but then also flesh it out a little more.
This guy has a beard that Odin would be jealous of.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. But that's another thing. And I love this sort of representation, right, of this powerful woman being in charge. Here she is. She's wearing like, an LL Bean, rain-proof jacket.
I think it was REI.
Of course, you're right. This is a little more rugged. I apologize. She's definitely been mountain climbing. But she has a gun, but she leads with such power that the people with the big artillery follow her orders.
I almost got the sense of, so her brother used to lead them, this group of people that took over the quarantine zone. They kicked Fedra out of there, which is no easy feat, obviously. I get this sense from just little things that they've said and how people acted around her. Her brother did it. She took over, but she's more ruthless than the brother. And so that might have just scared all of them to be like, okay, I'm going to do whatever you want.
Well, we see how ruthless she is. She never, when she's interrogating that doctor, she really never gets the answer that she wants, that she's looking for. It turns out this is the person that delivered her.
Whoops.
And then she's angry because she thinks that Henry and Sam killed these guys. So she marches right back to that shipping container and kills the guy, the doctor.
I almost thought that Kathleen was that guy's mom at first, just because, saying my mom's just around the corner, blah, blah, blah. I almost thought that was it, but her reaction to seeing, like, obviously she was upset. If that is her son, and if somebody can clarify that for me, that'd be great. If that's her son and that's the way she acted, she's terrifying.
She's a cold-hearted snake. Look into her eyes.
Even more so, to prove the point, Perry takes her to some freaking infected brooding horde pit bubbling of something.
Some sort of undulating concrete
and
jelly.
She's like, we'll come back to this. Like, just we'll be fine.
Let's just double bolt it.
Just put a chair in front of the door.
Yeah. Old school it. Exactly.
Obviously Perry is not happy about that. I think we can assume what is under there is, one, a bunch of infected. Two, the infamous bloater that we have seen in the trailer. The setting seems about right for my detective skills and looking at the trailer.
Good for you. Okay, put it together, sleuth.
But it seems like they're expanding on how the infected work, and fungus have a network underneath the ground.
That's right, they do.
I guess it would make sense for the infected to kind of be underground in some way.
My question is, can they spawn?
Is
this
fungus
some sort of mother?
Well, most of the infected, that's different.
Yeah.
The clickers, the bloaters, all of that. There's one in the second game that is very terrifying, and people have dubbed it like the Rat King, but it's awful. And it's almost like depending on how much infected they are, that's what happens. So I'm not sure if at some point it does not need a human host and can just kind of make a humanoid thing because it learns. I don't think so, but I guess we'll see in the next one.
Clarify something for me.
Okay.
When are you officially a clicker? When you have mushroom head? Full mushroom head?
Right. So the clickers, because of the face protruding like that and the fungus coming out, their eyes are gone.
So they use echolocation?
That's why they click. Yeah.
Drag queens. Also clickers.
They move a little less gracefully than drag queens.
True. Have you seen a duck walk?
Have you seen your arms flip up over your head and just completely go down?
No.
That's a clicker.
You better walk that fucking duck. If you know what that is, you've watched the newest season of Drag Race.
So it's Ellie and Joel find shelter and all the way up, what did they say, 40-something floors, which I think is smart because if I was one of Kathleen's footmen, I ain't going up 40-something flights of stairs.
I'm tired.
I'm sorry. But
Yeah.
like Henry and Sam did, or they were already there.
But also, they're looking for Henry and Sam. So what happens if they roll up on Joel and Ellie?
Well, right. But I think if they're still fundamentally the hunters, I don't think they'll care because remember, the people that attacked him in the first place were her people.
True.
So she knew that was happening. So I would not trust her for a second, not even for a little tiny itty bitty second.
That's what's interesting, right? Is that we are being fed the story that Henry and Sam are our enemy.
Mm.
And we don't necessarily know that.
Yeah. I will not talk about them from the game. I'm very excited to see how they change it. It's already changed with the inclusion of Kathleen and Perry and
Kathleen.
and having their story tie into her. It's already very different. So I'm excited to see it. I hope it's not the same outcome, but I'm very excited to see.
That doesn't sound good.
It's The Last of Us.
The Last of Us. Who will be the last of us?
Well, I could tell you, but that's going to spoil the second part of the game.
No, don't tell me. But so you're right. So Ellie and Joel climb 850 flights of stairs, and I was very excited for them couch cushions.
Oh man, him putting, one thing that this show is doing is really teaching me how to not only kill infected, but to make sure I get alerted of anything coming into the room. Putting broken glass all around the entrance to where the only entrance is that people can come so you could hear it. Perfect.
I remember that. Do you remember the first Mission Impossible? He did that with a light bulb.
Oh, he did?
Yes. And then that poor woman was walking down the hall and he put her in a chokehold. She was like, "You're just supposed to meet here. Quit choking me."
But this final scene of this episode, we get to see Joel smile. We get to see him crack up.
He laughs.
He is slowly. This whole episode is literally just to bust down the emotional walls that is Joel and Ellie.
And you know what gets him there? Poop jokes. Everybody loves a poop joke.
What was the season? Oh man, we used to do seasons that poop jokes kept coming up. Was it Loki?
Whoa.
I feel like it was. Or maybe Shadow and Bone.
Comment below. When did we talk about poop the most?
Oh no. Falcon and Winter Soldier because of birds?
No, I don't think. That's too lowbrow for us.
Really? You did a segment called Bird Facts.
That's another edition of Bird Facts.
I like how that's too low, but that's not.
I forgot how the song went, but
That was it.
It was, yeah. I just remembered it. For a second, though, there was that pause. I was like, there was a slogan. It was a song I sang.
But Joel not only is teaching us how to keep invaders out, or at least alert us of invaders, but we get a poop joke I have never heard before. I'm pretty sure somebody's heard it before, but I've never heard it.
You know what? I guess it's a poop pun.
Well, right. Well, it's a joke. Puns are jokes.
Puns are jokes.
Jokes
But
are puns.
She's specifically reading it from a pun book, so apology for saying joke before.
That pun book looked weathered.
I
just don't want. I like it's so sad just thinking about her just staying up late and reading puns to
That's
herself.
what I was just gonna say. Like, that's her before bed reading. She just reads this, like, and it's like such a small book. You know, she's probably read it a couple of times. No story. It's
I don't know why
puns.
I don't know why I'm laughing. I just think I'm uncomfortable.
We're just like, that's the saddest part of The Last of Us.
It's her reading herself puns to go to sleep.
You know what, though? Coming from two people who are very obsessed with collecting books and having as many books as possible, the thought of having one book for all of eternity, I think, makes us feel uncomfortable.
That is so sad.
Yeah.
Like that you could not put a gun to my head and make me pick one book for the rest of my, like, that's the one book you're going to take into the apocalypse. Oh my God.
Well, with my luck, I would have the Twilight Zone moment where I have all the books that I need, but then my glasses break.
Yeah. Probably. I mean, just go find other glasses. There's probably some.
Coke bottles.
Yeah.
Something.
But so anyway, back to their emotional walls breaking down. The diarrhea running in your jeans pun is what finally breaks Joel. And I don't know if it's because he's exhausted from walking up all those stairs, finally giving in, or he's just cracking a little bit on the acceptance of Ellie. And maybe she's not just cargo, but his right side is hard of hearing. Guess what side? He falls asleep. He wakes. He's facing when Henry and Sam come in. His right ear's up.
Good job, Joel.
So he couldn't hear. She even warned him. She was like, yeah, but are you sure you're going to hear that? He's like, yeah, I'll hear it.
Good
Nope.
for nothing.
Nope.
I also wonder if there's a piece of Joel that is proud/grateful, because if Ellie wouldn't have stepped in, he might have been dead.
Yeah, I think 100% that he now owes her a debt. She saved his life. And I think it's no easy thing but it's also a 14-year-old girl. So I think that it's just so complicated. But I did like that he shared with her like how to properly use the gun, even though she kind of already knew. Fedra School.
Fedra Junior Soldier
Academy.
Yeah.
But we do get those very sweet and intimate moments with them, even when they're hiding from these hunters trying to hunt them. It's great.
Yeah. But of course, that all goes to pot at the end of this episode.
Yep.
Because they wake up with guns in their faces.
Yeah. They'll be fine. They'll be fine. It's Henry and Sam.
Well, that's the thing, is that I feel like we've been fed the Kathleen's truth as viewers, but it might not necessarily be the truth.
Well, she is totally fine with shooting her delivery doctor in the face.
Yeah.
I'm inclined to not believe that she knows the full truth and she's just acting on hearsay or what she believes to be true. It's probably not the truth.
I'm going to agree with you on that.
Or he probably, just going to put this out there, it doesn't happen in the game, so I'm not trying to be sneaky. He probably ratted her brother out to save his brother. I'm just going to put that out there. Like, that's what I think possibly could have happened, because I'm sorry, I'd probably do the same thing too.
Or maybe more gay stuff.
No, what?
And Henry and her brother were smoochies, and they had to save one of them, and he knew that he had to be the one to stay alive because he had to save his little brother.
Maybe not.
I don't know. I'm just saying, why not?
Well, I don't know how old Henry is. And I don't know how old her brother is.
Well, you know what's interesting is that that they're brothers. I thought it was father and son.
No, they're brothers.
See, I didn't get that. I didn't know that.
You're welcome, people. If you
Spoiler.
didn't know. Yeah. We did see, we saw that their hiding place for a little bit. Perry shows Kathleen their hiding place up in the attic. And you see that Sam was drawing superheroes, him and his brother.
And he's got a mask on.
Yeah, which looked cool as hell. That little kid looked really fucking cool.
And you know what, though? This is another... So in this same episode, we're seeing two young characters wielding guns. This is the world.
This is
that
the world
they live in.
This is, yep.
So Ellie is not alone in being a child with a gun.
No, not at all. So I liked this episode a lot. I thought it did footwork that the show needs. Some people might think it's a bit fillery. I don't think so. As long as an episode furthers character development or motivation, I don't think we can really call it a filler episode. And also, that tire busting scene was so cool.
And I think one of the things that we have to remember is that this season, at least the first half of it, maybe the whole thing, is a road trip.
Mm-hmm.
So they're driving someplace. So we're going to have we're going to be introduced to new people, new settings, new characters, and then they're going to move on from them.
Hopefully.
So it's not filler. It's just the journey
Right.
that they're on.
Right.
And
100%.
we're along for the ride.
Speaking of along for the ride and journey, we actually get to see The Last of Us early. So thanks to the Super Bowl, everybody can see The Last of Us episode 5 on Friday. So I'm warning you now. Don't wait until Sunday to watch it. Watch it on Friday, because that's when everybody else will.
So listen, if you go and get your Super Bowl snacks, but you get a little extra Doritos for Friday night.
Infected Fridays.
Ew. Yucky. No thanks.
But hey, what better way? I mean, hey, you get to sad drink into your wine while you watch The Last of Us, and you don't have to go to work the next day unless you do. And then I still sad drink into your wine.
My Friday night is Drag Race at 8, Last of Us at 9.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
What a combo.
That sounds fun. We have very exciting things coming up on the podcast. So somebody that may have worked on The Last of Us and might be on this here podcast.
Smooth.
I always try to be like, hint, hint. It's like, yeah, we have somebody that worked on the show coming on.
Yeah.
Our show.
Very exciting.
Yeah, very exciting. So that episode will release after our 5th episode. So next week. Expect that episode next week.
Yeah. Double episodes next week.
Fun stuff.
Woohoo.
So goodbye.
Thank you.
Right?
Yeah, that's it. Goodbye.
See you episode 5.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening to A Bite of. Artwork and editing by our own Noah. Be sure to follow us on Instagram and Twitter at A Bite of Pod, and on Facebook at A Bite of. If you have any questions, recommendations, or just want to say hi, you can contact us on abiteofpod.com. Please be sure to subscribe, rate, and review to spread the word. See you next time on A Bite of. Bye.